Yeah. Yeah. So good evening, everyone. With great pleasure, I welcome all of you webinar by a distinguished scholar, Ms. Sugandha Mahajan. She is going to share her journey from Lady Shri Ram College to getting MBA admission offer from INSEAD. Moderating this session. Today's webinar is a part of new initiative called Scholar Series. For this series, we will be inviting scholars from around the world to create awareness about scholarship, university applications, opportunities for young people amongst prospective applicants. With this, I invite Sugandha Mahajan. She so many achievements at such an early stage. There are so many things to share about her, such as she was an investment banker who graduated in economics, got admission offer to pursue an admission from INSEAD, which is #1 ranked university in the world for an MBA course. She has also been selected as Heinrich Foundation Global Trade Leader Scholar. There are many achievements of Sugandha, but I want to request Sugandha to share her journey with our viewers. Welcome, Sugandha, on the Foreign Grad platform.
Thank you so much, Dhananjay. That's such a kind introduction. I don't know how to top it, but I'll try to do that. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad you're here. As Dhananjay mentioned, I completed my undergraduate studies in economics from Lady Shri Ram College. If there are any LSR grads here listening to us, yay, shout out to you. But after LSR, I moved to investment banking. I joined a Japanese investment bank as their youngest analyst. And I predominantly helped clients in Europe and the UK to raise capital from equity markets. I loved my work. The team was great. But after 4 years, I felt that I needed a little bit of change. And that's when I decided to come back to my hometown and join my family business. So my family business has a very interesting role to play in the current COVID times because we manufacture safety footwear. For those who don't know, safety footwear is a specialized technical kind of footwear that industrial workers, healthcare workers, and military and paramilitary forces wear. So they protect the wearer from the occupational hazards. And in the upcoming months, I'm very excited to start my MBA journey at INSEAD. And I'm very proud to be a Heinrich Scholar at the school. So that's about it from me. And of course, we can continue the conversation.
Amazing. So, Sugandha, why did you decide to study in INSEAD and not from other university in the world or from India?
That's a great question. I had actually numerous reasons to choose INSEAD over other equally exceptional universities and business schools. But let me categorize them into personal reasons and reasons that the value that INSEAD as a brand can contribute. So let me start with the personal angle. I have 7 years of work experience in finance and hardcore business fundamentals. At this stage, I feel that it is a little late for me to go through the traditional route of Indian business schools. So that was one reason why I did not want to apply to Indian business schools. Another reason that was contributing to it was the fact that I wanted global exposure, both in my studies and work experience. So for me, the choice was very clear that I wanted to apply outside India. Across geographies, across the different roles that I was looking at, the different durations of the business school education that are available, I felt that INSEAD, for my own profile, added the most value. And there were 3 reasons predominantly for that. Number one was that INSEAD is a 1-year degree course as compared to 2-year degree courses that most business schools provide. With 1 year, you have a very high return on investment. And by investment, I mean time, energy, and finances. So that was a clear win for INSEAD. It is almost like a boot camp degree where you are thrown into all of these different options. You are expected to really master time management and the different skill sets a manager would require, a leader would require. And that is the kind of experience that I wanted. The second reason was INSEAD's diversity. Like I mentioned, I wanted global exposure, and INSEAD thrives on its diversity. In fact, I was going through the few stats, and the last class that graduated from INSEAD had 88 nationalities, over 500 students. That's incredible diversity. I have already started experiencing this diversity even before I have stepped on campus, because we have very active Telegram and WhatsApp groups that keep us connected. But the third reason, and I think this is a more of a reflective reason, the way I have been really impressed by the way INSEAD has handled its communication and response towards COVID. They have been very delicate and very strategic, and have made sure to make this unfortunate circumstance as comfortable for the students as possible. I always believe that crisis is a very good testament. It's a true test of how what is the strength of an organization and its leaders. And I'm so glad that I chose, and I was chosen to be a part of INSEAD community based on the kind of reaction that I have seen of the school.
That's amazing, and the important thing you shared about the regions, and the professional regions. Professional regions are very clear about the exposure, and the most important, students are not aware, and because they know they have a very limited time and they do not want to do 2-year course. So I think this is one of the best option anyone have. And third, the diversity which you shared about 88 countries. That's amazing. That's great, because more diversity, it will give you a lot of exposure and you learn a lot of practices across the world. So with this action, so Sugandha, please share your secret to our viewers regarding how one should approach INSEAD application and its essays.
So there was a lot of planning that went into it. So I think my only secret is plan, and just stick to your plan. In fact, kudos to every single person who is going through this application journey, because if you are in the process, you already know that it is a very long and tedious process. There are a lot of different components that you have to take care of. So stick to it. If nothing else, you will at least have the opportunity to introspect yourself, to understand where you are coming from, to understand where you want to reach, what are your goals. So stick to this journey. In terms of the tips, I have 3 tips to share. My first tip is, of course, planning. Build a timeline and try to fit in every component of your application journey into that timeline. What is the amount of time you need for your competitive exam like GMAT and GRE? How much time you need for collecting your documents? How much time you need to work on your essays, work on your letters of recommendation, because you will have to give a certain amount of time to the people who would be recommending you as well. So work on every component, but once you build that timeline, try to create some time for contingencies as well. So make sure that you have enough time to, maybe if at all you need to take another run at GMAT, you have time for that. If you need a little extra time to get one recommendation letter from a boss or one transcript from your university, you have time for that. So that is the first tip. The second tip is to network. Network with the current students and alumni of the organization. How you network, with how many people you network, for how long you can network, that is completely your decision. So for example, I like to start early. So I like to base my decision making on the conversations that I have with people who have already been through a certain journey. It's completely okay if you are not of that temperament and you want to do it only a few weeks before your interview. That's completely fine, but understand what are the consequences of it. In terms of networking, just a few things that I would add is make sure that your conversations with the people that you are contacting are meaningful. And by that, I mean that you're getting an opportunity to speak to somebody who has been through that journey. That person, most chances are that person is very happy to share their journey with you. However, make sure that those conversations are not wasted in basic questions that you can easily Google. Try to ask intuitive questions which only that particular person can add value to. You can do your homework before your call so that you make sure you are to ask only those very selected, meaningful questions. Second, make sure that you stick to the schedule that you set with them. Do not be late for the call. Do not have everything, all your logistics ready before the call that you set up with the person. And third, it's funny how we consider this to be a very low component of it, but a follow-up message or a thank you message, or just letting people know how your process is going, that goes a long way. You are in their memory. If at all they have any tip or anything that guidance that they want to offer you at a later stage, they will always remember you. So if you just keep these few things in mind, you will make sure that you will make your conversation very meaningful. So second was your networking. The third tip is more INSEAD focused. So with INSEAD, I think the most unique thing about their applications is that they have a rather long list of essays that you have to prepare. But the great thing is that these essays are only about you. So they ask you only about your own self, your journey, your goals, etc. So you don't have to really prepare or research a lot about why INSEAD or what is the value you will contribute to INSEAD. You can focus only on your story and you will at least get through to the interview process. So when you're working on your story, try to research the values of the school that you're applying to. In this case, INSEAD. Go through the interviews that the AdComs have presented with different bodies in the past. Try to understand what is it that the school values. You can go through student blogs, you can watch YouTube videos, all of those different contents that are there, so that once you know that, yeah, these are the few things that the school really values, you can shape your story accordingly. So for example, INSEAD focuses a lot on diversity, like I mentioned earlier. So it would be very interesting that you can bring out the diversity angles of your stories when you're writing application essays. These are just light, intuitive things that really take your application from an ordinary application to a great application. So these are the 3 points I would like to share, mainly.
That's very insightful, Sugandha. But I have one small question in this only, that when people write their, say, whatever question they have, 3 or 4 questions in their applications. So can you say in brief, in each essays, what one should focus? If they should focus more so that their chances of selection is high.
Sure. So with INSEAD, there are 2 categories of questions. One is job-focused questions, which mainly talk about what was your work experience in the past, bullet points around your resume, what are your short-term and your long-term goals. So this is your job questions. These are pretty standard because there is not much imagination and creativity that goes into this. These are things that you've already thought of for all the schools that you're applying to. You know what are your short-term goals, you know what are your long-term goals. You can add maybe a line about how INSEAD comes into the picture. Like we usually do it like this, right? So for example, A, B, C. A is where I'm currently standing. C is where I want to go, which is my future goal. The missing component is B, which is where INSEAD comes into the picture, or any other school that you're applying to comes into the picture. And eventually your causality has to be A plus B equals C. So that is something that you can follow in your job questions. Pretty standard stuff. However, the best component of INSEAD essays are the motivational questions. So these are questions more about your candid self. So they want to know what is it that you consider your biggest weakness? What is it that you consider your biggest strength? Give an example of where you displayed leadership skills. You can talk about any place where you felt you made a mistake and how you overcame it. So these are the questions for the motivational ones. This is where whatever research you do on the value system of INSEAD, that's where it comes into the picture. So if you understand, for example, coming back to the whole diversity angle, that diversity is very important for the school. This is a part where you will want to maybe talk about your international experiences. You will maybe want to talk about the different experiences you've had with multiple cultures of your work experience. You've worked with a different team which had many nationalities. You handled a client who came from a different nationality and there were maybe some cultural clashes. You understood them, maybe you erred on them, but you rectified them. It's important, really important to bring out what is the impact and what is the motivation of your actions, rather than focusing so much on, oh, I did XYZ. Don't really focus so much on that. Focus on this. I did X, but the value or the impact of it was this. So I would rather focus on your impact rather than what you have done in your job. So that is the guideline that I would give for the essays.
Amazing. So I'm sure these insights will help the presenter applicants in writing their essays. So, but still I have one more question with this, like you said about job standard questions. So there also, when I'm mentioning about short-term or long-term goals, these are make or break questions, you know. Even in tuning application also, these are make or break questions. So even when we are writing these questions, how one should approach? What should be the focus area?
You know, to actually answer your question, there is this one question that INSEAD asks, which I found very interesting, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this question. That question is that if you do not get into INSEAD, or you choose to not go for an INSEAD MBA, what is the next logical step that you will come up in your career, in your existing career? So you have to give an answer of the fact that, hey, I really want INSEAD MBA, but just in case it doesn't happen, it's not like my life will completely become sour. I will still have something to look forward to. Yet at the same time, that next consequence shouldn't be so great that they feel that, oh, she doesn't really need an INSEAD MBA. She's already doing great for her own self, right? So this is the kind of balance that you have to maintain in your answers. With your goals, that is something that you have to reflect on. Your short-term and your long-term goals have to be practical. They have to be the kind that can actually be achieved after an INSEAD MBA. They shouldn't be very far-fetched. Yet, if you can give us reasons. So for example, if you want to change your career, before INSEAD you were doing X, you want to completely change your career after an INSEAD MBA, you want to go somewhere else. If you can give them valid reasons to believe that you actually have it in you to make that career change, they will make sure that they give you value and credit for that. Your goals don't have to be so unrealistic, where they feel that even with an INSEAD MBA, this candidate will not be able to reach their goals. So there is no point in actually disappointing this candidate. So that kind of a balance you will have to make. Make sure that they're ambitious, but they are still practical. There's still something that can be achieved with an INSEAD MBA.
Very good point you made regarding this particular question, that you have to balance. You do not have to show yourself also in a very great position that they think that you don't need at all. And don't also show yourself in such a lighter note that they also understand that you are not the right candidate. So you have to create that balance. So with this, I will move to the next question. So Sugandha, we know that INSEAD has interview also. So can you share your experience and how one should approach and prepare for it?
So INSEAD has 2 interviews with their alumni. They're all alumni. They're all taken by alumni. No professors are involved. Frankly, I loved my interviews. I had the best experience with both my interviewers. In fact, till date, I'm in touch with them, and I am more in a friendly capacity. I'm in touch with them. But I think that's also a reflection of the kind of school that INSEAD is. It really believes in community building. They're very proud of their community. They are always willing to help. So with my alumni interviews, after I got selected, after the applications went in, I was shortlisted for interviews, and the admission committee, they sent me an email with details of my interviewers who I had to contact. So the admission committee doesn't arrange interviews for us. They tell us who are the interviewers, and we have to touch base. The candidates have to touch base with them and figure out when is the best date to schedule the interview. I kind of thought about how many days do I made to prepare for my interviews, and accordingly, I sent them emails with what are the dates that I was comfortable with. Both the interviewers obliged with my dates, and I got my interview scheduled. Now, before I actually jump into the interviews, let me add that there is this one additional process that INSEAD follows. So right after you submit your applications, you have about 3 to 4 days till when you have to complete this round of recorded interviews. So these recorded interviews don't happen from all universities, but some, of course, do have that. And this happens on a platform called Kira. So with these recorded interviews, how the process works is that you're essentially, you have to answer 4 questions in the same time span, and a pre-recorded question is shown to you. You get about 45 to 60 seconds to prepare, to collect your thoughts, to prepare your answer. And in the next 1 minute, you have to tell your answer, which will be recorded, so that the admission committee exactly knows who they are assessing, who is the applicant behind the essays that they are reading. So that this is an important step, because I feel that not all of us are comfortable in speaking to a webcam, right? So this particular process does take a little bit of preparation. I should add, do not take it very lightly. It's not that it's a make or break process, but I feel that your confidence on how you deal with this particular process really translates into how you deal with the remaining process, which is the one-on-one interviews that you have with the alumni. So when I was submitting my applications, I had also started preparing for my Kira interviews, because I knew that there was very limited time I would get for Kira. I had shortlisted these questions that I wanted to prepare for, rehearsed their answers, rehearsed a number of times with the platform so that I get comfortable in speaking to myself. And that really helped me in preparing for my interviews as well, because I already had this repository of questions that I had gone through. These were more behavioral questions, like how you would deal with leadership situations, how you would deal with maybe a non-conforming team member, how you would deal with differences in cultures, questions like those. Apart from this, Dhananjay, I'm pretty sure everybody would know by now, I am really big on preparation. I prepared hard for my interviews, even though everybody told me, yeah, they're easy, they're conversational, they don't grill you. Yet, I made it a point to prepare every single bit of my resume, because I did not want to be left without an answer about my own story. We all know our stories, but in that moment when we are there, when we know the stakes are very high for the conversation that I'm making, I don't want to be left without any words. I want to make sure that I translate, I communicate my story well. So I prepared every possible question I could find. Like I said before, I focused on the impact and my motivation for my decisions rather than the decisions alone. I looked up the details of industry that I am currently working in, the industry that I previously worked in. If at all somebody has their ambitions changing, for example, after MBA, they want to pursue a different industry, it's a good idea to research on that industry as well, so that you can show credibility on the fact that you can actually pursue that industry. So all of those factors I prepared very much on. What that this preparation helped me do is that day when I actually went in for my interview, I was super relaxed, because I was very sure that at least I know my story very well. And that's exactly, I think, how it translated. In fact, one of my interviews went on for 2 hours. And 20 minutes into the interview, my interviewer was like, you know what, you can relax now. I'm going to send a recommendation for you. Don't worry, now we can just chat. And after that, we had a chat for 2 hours on random things about spirituality, about how to deal with INSEAD pressure, how to deal with so many options in front of you, and how you make a selection, things like that. So it's not with interviews. My advice would be prepare so well with every tiny thing, so that on the day of your interview, you are super confident and content with the preparation that you've made.
So the key is plan, prepare, and practice. 3 P's. From Sugandha, it's 3 P, plan, prepare, and practice. This is the key to INSEAD interview. I have a small question, Sugandha, that say you said that you have to give interview to a to a software, Gira, I think, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that questions pre-planned, or like they ask questions when you just start the interview?
So the platform works like this, that you can practice beforehand. You will get these, sort of random questions to practice. But when you're actually doing the test for INSEAD, the questions, you don't know the questions. You will get about 30 to 40 seconds to prepare for them.
Okay.
But all of those questions, you can assume that they will either be around INSEAD or they will be around behavioral sciences. So I'll actually add a tip here. There is this forum called GMAT Club, where if you search for INSEAD Kira, you get a list of a lot of questions that people have had in the past. So they have been very kind to share these questions with for all the candidates' benefit. I would say do go through that particular list and prepare your answers to it, because your questions will not be too far away from that list. They will be very similar around the lines. So you will at least have some bit of preparation, if not for the exact question.
Okay, so you also mentioned that there are some questions on behavioral part. So just in short, can you explain what these questions consist of, or what kind of questions are?
So these questions can be around your leadership skills. For example, they could be around your leadership skills, around culture, around teamwork, around diversity. I'll give you a few examples of the ones that I had seen. Not necessarily that I faced these questions on my own, but I also heard from a few other applicants. One question was that you have a very difficult team member in your team, but you have to submit submit a project by a certain deadline. How will you deal with it? Or you can be asked question like, your boss comes from a different culture. They don't understand what are the nuances of your culture, and they have unknowingly done something which is not respected in your culture. How will you communicate to your boss? Or questions like, what are the skills? What are the 3 main important skills that a leader should know? In fact, because my sister has gone through the Chevening scholarship, I actually know that these are very similar, around the same lines. So these questions are more to understand with how you think and what are the experiences you've had. You don't necessarily have to quote your personal experiences. You can quote your opinion, and that is perfectly fine.
That's amazing, because now I think the viewers will get an idea what is the meaning of that particular word. So with this, I will move to the next question. That Sugandha, you were also selected as Hinrich Foundation Global Trade Leader Scholar. So please educate our viewers about this scholarship and what it constitutes.
So Heinrich Foundation is an Asia-based philanthropic organization, and they mainly deal with sustainable trade. That is their main tenet, that they want to make sustainable trade more viable and more widespread. The way they do this is through 2 areas. One is, of course, educational programs. They educate people on how to actually go through sustainable trade. They sponsor scholarships in other programs who are doing the same. For example, the way they do it with INSEAD. I can actually touch upon it a little later. And the second way in which they do it is through the research programs. They have a very, very strong research leadership team, which works on very important topics. In fact, during the COVID times and the fact that Asia is at the epicenter of everything that is happening in COVID and trade, they have been coming up with very good and very well-researched literature on how we can expect trade to be after COVID, post-COVID. So, before I had actually even decided to apply for INSEAD, I had already heard about this organization because I was using a lot of their research material in my own family business. It's funny how, things get connected. But I'm very proud to be a part of this organization because the scholarship program that they have with INSEAD is a very generous program. They sponsor 2 candidates, a part of their tuition they sponsor, and 2 candidates in INSEAD in a year. So INSEAD has 2 intakes. They sponsor 2 candidates out of those both the intakes. And I think, of course, the generous financial contribution is a very big component, but a bigger component is the kind of community support that that a scholar gets from Heinrich Foundation. I haven't even started with my MBA degree yet, but I've already had a lot of interactions with the foundation. They have been very consistently inviting us for webinars on career development, on understanding how we are doing, on general, meetups, so that they can stay connected with us. They are also, I think one of my most influential moments with the foundation was that when I was interviewing for the particular scholarship, the person who interviewed me is the program director of the scholarship, Mr. Alex Boom. And during the interview, Dhananjay, you wouldn't believe this person who doesn't know me. I'm not even a scholar of this foundation. And he connected me with 5 connections of his own network, which could help me in my career. This is before any alliance or any association with the organization. And that particular action of his touched me so much and it reflected on the kind of value system that this organization has. They are there to help. They are there to connect. They are there to always contribute. And I'm so proud to be a part of this organization, of this foundation. And I cannot wait to continue contributing to the organization as well.
That's amazing, Sugandha. And you gave very brief and very detailed information about this foundation, their value system, how you got connected, and then how they were so helpful in your scholarship as well as when you applied in INSEAD also. So I just want to understand one point, that how to get connected or how to enter into these kind of foundation. Is it like some competition or what is the way to enter into this foundation?
That's a great question. So there are a couple of ways. I think the best way to reach out to this organization would be through their website. They have all their programs very well listed on their website. They also have information of their scholars of different programs that candidates can reach out to depending on their interests. Now, as I said before, this organization, the main tenet is sustainable trade. So all of their programs are related to trade. They sponsor this program. There's one scholarship in INSEAD. Apart from that, they also sponsor programs in other trade schools in Asia and Australia, in Asia Pacific region. You can go through the list of the different schools that they have an association with. And if you are considering any of those schools, make sure that you apply for Heinrich Foundation. Apart from that, they also have specific programs that they have themselves designed. For example, I know one that they have designed for this trade school in Vietnam. It is fully designed by Heinrich Foundation. You have a very, very generous tuition waiver sponsored by the organization, and you have a lot of support towards your career development from the organization. With INSEAD in particular, like I said, they are an external donor that sponsor this scholarship. I had to fill out a few answers to first, get into the selection process. Once I had submitted those answers, I qualified to the second round, which was a one-on-one interview through a video interview with the program director and a couple of other people who were present on the call, including a previous scholar of INSEAD. They asked me a few questions about my motivations, about what is my career direction that I'm looking at, how is it that INSEAD can contribute. And I feel that a big factor with this organization is that they're looking for candidates who are very excited to contribute, who are very excited to give back. So I will stress on that one point, make sure that you are bringing that out when you are applying for this organization, because that's something that they not only believe in, they practice. Like I gave you the example of, they practice in their daily lives, giving back and contributing.
That's amazing, Sugandha. So Sugandha explained INSEAD, then she explained the application process, how to approach their essays. She explained her experience of interview and do's and don'ts in the interview, where she explained how to use 3P: prepare, plan, prepare, and practice. And then she also explained about this wonderful foundation where you can get the scholarship and you get, more importantly, a great community, a supportive community. So with this, we come to an end. And with this, I want to ask the last question from Sugandha, that any final application tips to the aspirants, Sugandha?
I think I've spoken quite a bit, but if I were to summarize, I think my first would be, do not lose faith on your goals. Do not lose faith on your ambitions that you have built for yourself. Even if you feel that the dream schools that you're applying to, or the dream scholarships that you're applying to, are pretty competitive, that's okay. Once you've decided that, now make sure you put your heart and soul into it. Make sure that you leave no stone unturned in getting into that. There is no discounting of dreams. There is no discounting of your ambitions. The only thing that you can actually focus on is the hard work that you're putting in and the causes that you're creating. So that is one. Second, and it might feel a little silly in doing this first, but I can assure you this works so brilliantly. When you're aiming to get into a particular school or getting through a particular scholarship, start behaving today. Where you are standing right now, start behaving already like you have achieved it. How would an INSEAD MBA candidate behave? How would a Chevening scholar, how would a Heinrich scholar, all of those different attributes that you want, how will they behave? Start putting in those attributes in your behavior today itself. Because this mental preparation, believing that you can reach that particular destination, this is so pivotal to your preparation. This is actually something that will sustain you through the bad times, through the lows of your preparation. And there will be a lot of lows, I can assure you that. It's a long and tedious process. But once you've kind of figured out your mental preparation, there is absolutely nothing that will stop you. So only two things: do not discount your ambitions and your goals, and make sure you're very, very, very well prepared on your mental preparation.
Oh, that's so insightful to the applicants, and I'm sure your experience, your guidance will help a lot of aspirants who are seeing your videos later, who can see your videos. So Sugandha, thank you so much for coming on the Foreign Grad platform and sharing your experience, giving your precious time. So thank you so much. And I will request all the viewers to subscribe our channel so that you don't miss something important. So thank you so much
Thank
to
you so much,
Sugandha.
Sanjay. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you to all the viewers, and have a good day.
I will just add one thing. Please feel free to look up me on LinkedIn. If you feel that you want to discuss anything further, you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Only thing is, do drop in a message. Once you've brought in a message, I will make sure that I respond to you.
Right. That's amazing. That's great for being so supportive to the applicants. So thank you once again for this, and thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.